3.Borobudur is not a temple book. Part 3. Santo Saba works. Created as a discourse to scientists based on subjective academic studies and studies, this needs to be re-examined by experts in their fields. In an effort to restore the true history of Indonesia. INDONÉSIARYÄ. By Santo Saba. Exploration and research. Complete info. WhatsApp to +62813 2132 9787. Koran Republica. Saturday, June 18, 2005 wrote that U.S. researchers stated that Atlantis was Indonesia. Until now, the story of the lost continent Atlantis is still shrouded in mystery. Some people consider Atlantis just a fairy tale, even though no less than 5,000 books about Atlantis have been written by experts. Some archaeologists from the United States, U.S., even believe that the continent of Atlantis was once a large island called Sunda Land, an area that is now occupied by Sumatra, Java and Kalimantan. About 11,600 years ago, the continent sank in a massive flood following the end of the Ice Age. According to Umar, one of the most important islands left from the continent of Atlantis, if it is true, is Natuna Island, Riau. Based on biomolecular studies, the native Natuna are known to have genes that are similar to the oldest Austronesian people. Austronesian people are believed to have a high level of culture, such as the image of the Atlanteans mentioned in the myth of Plato. When the Ice Age ended, which was marked by the sinking of the continent of Atlantis, the Austronesian people spread to various directions. They then created cultural and linguistic diversity in the local communities they visited in a very fast time, namely in the past 3,500 to 5,000 years. Today, the Austronesian family occupies half of the Earth's surface. According to Eriso Santos' research, these ancient Egyptian priests, clergy, inherited information about Atlantis from their ancestors who came from Hindustan, India, which is the second Atlantean civilization, from the civilization of the first Atlanteans in the Sunda land, Lemuria, or Nusantara. Eriso Santos also found a lot of information that led to his conclusion from artifacts and historical sites in Egypt. Eriso Santos also found that the story of Atlantis was related to the story of the gods in Greek mythology and the Parakeetian first humans, their families and the people of their descendants. This story is similar to the story of Zeus in Greek mythology and legend, as well as the story in the Hindu holy book Rig Veda, Puranas. In the glacial age, the sea level had decreased drastically so that only the dry seabed became land. In western Indonesia, the dry seabed is called the Sunda Plain, while in eastern Indonesia it is called the Sahul Plain. The Sunda Plain has caused the western Indonesian archipelago to become one with the Asian continent, while the Sahul Plain has also connected the eastern Indonesian archipelago with the Australian continent. That is why the fauna and flora of western Indonesia are similar to those of Asia and vice versa. The fauna and flora of eastern Indonesia are similar to Australia. Humans who lived in the Pleistocene era were a species of Homo erectus, which supported the old stone culture Paleolithicum. Geologically, the western region of modern Indonesia appeared around the Pleistocene connected to mainland Asia. This region now includes the larger islands of Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, and thousands of other smaller islands. This old land boundary is now known as the Wallace Line. Meanwhile, the eastern region of Indonesia, which includes the present island of Papua and Aru Islands, is geographically connected to the Australian continent and is older. The land of Sabah, which is called Atlantis, has two gardens on the right and left. The author assumes that the words right and left are simple words that all humans on Earth will know the meaning of right and left, namely equator, which divides the garden into two, namely right and left or north and south. In fact, for the Sabaean people there was a sign of God's power in their residence, namely two gardens on the right and on the left. To them it is said, "Eat by you from the sustenance bestowed by your Lord and give thanks to him. Your country is a good land and your God is God the most forgiving." Qs. Saba. 14. The known human-like creatures that inhabit this region are Javanese humans, who lived about 500,000 years ago. Homo erectus fossils were found in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in valleys along Bengawan Solo, such as in Sangiren. The first Homo sapiens fossils were found near Mojokerto, Wajik, on the bank of the Brantas River. Newcomers in the form of modern humans whose descendants are still alive today entered the archipelago at the earliest about 100,000 years ago. Based on the similarities between the remains of the cave figures, they are thought to have been the predecessors of the present inhabitants of Melanesia and Australia. The culture that is supported is Paleolithic, Old Stone. The Indonesian archipelago as it exists today was formed during the melting of the ice after the end of the Ice Age. Indian scholars have written about Dwipantara or the Hindu-Javanese kingdom of Dwipa on the islands of Java and Sumatra around 200 BC. The Tarumanagara kingdom controlled the Sunda region from around 400 to 600, which was continued by the Sunda kingdom until the 16th century. Prehistoric relics of the archipelago are known from various findings of graffiti, paintings on cave walls or niches in cliffs as well as from excavations at ancient sites. Physical evidence of the remains of civilization scattered in Indonesia, the Sangiren Valley, in the valley of Mount Lau, Ragan in Gemalong, Kali Hambi, Plupa, Gondang Riho has an area of 56 m². This area is the most complete ancient human fossil site in the world, with the discovery of fossils aged around 200,000 to 2 million years ago. From the late Pliocene geology to the Middle Pleistocene age, in this area 50 individual human fossils were found, this number representing 65% of the fossils called Homo erectus in Indonesia and constituting 50% of the Homo erectus fossil population in the world. The painting in the Liang Liang cave in Sulawesi, in the subdistrict of Batu Brackets, the Regency of Maras Sul, the cave cells have been inhabited by humans since 8000–3000 BC. Liang Bua floris, fossil Homo sapiens, was found human female fossils estimated to have been buried for more than 10,000 years. Another suggestion is that the subspecies Homo sapiens of the Australomelanesia race is estimated to have lived in the Pleistocene era, 2,012,000 BC, also in the Sawa Basin of Central Flores. Found stone artifacts dating back about 1 million years. The indigenous people of the archipelago in the Sunda land of Arya blood, in mainland Asia, roughly between the Hindukush Mountains and the Himalayas there is a plateau called Aran Venj, its inhabitants are called the Aryans. They consider that their homeland is called the Garden of Heaven, because of its proximity to the supernatural. However, one day the Iranian nation of Venj would be destroyed, so that the Aryans spread to various regions. One of the Aryan hordes headed by the Achaemenid people called themselves the Parsa nation and in the end they were called the Persians and built the city of Persepolis. The Achaemenid leader had the title Kurush, the Greeks called it Cyrus. In the course of their history, they helped the Medes who were attacked by Darius' people. Even the nation of Darius, led by Alexander Macedonia, finally attacked Persia. A group of Aryan ethnic groups heading south, arrived in the land of Sunda, precisely at Pelabuhanratu, now. The newcomers were greeted warmly and there was a cultural acculturation between them, immigrants and natives, Sundanese, respecting each other. Is it true that Parahyangan is the center of the lost world, Atlantis? One of Kontiki's expeditions, Dr. Heyerdahl, proves and raises his theory that this is the result of the culture of white, red-skinned humans. Although this theory has been refuted by many other experts, we can draw an assumption that this white, red-skinned man is an Atlantean human who was lost by magical power. Proving the Kontiki expedition, Dr. Heyerdahl is now more exposed to a point. So if you look at the history that the descendants of the Sundanese Tatars crossing to Polynesia are the people of Atlantis, which is true we always hide in symbolic form. To make it easier to answer the questions above, let's prove it with the objects they work with. One of them is Trapan Pyramid, which is a pyramid with steps, Pundan steps. In West Java, Tatar Sunda, this neighboring limas used to function as a place of worship as well as for the people of Pangika, Badai, and for the Karawang people who still adhere to the custom of Tadali Karuhun, they are not allowed to build Suhun and Lilamasan houses. We can see the process of acculturation of this culture in the applied religious system. Newcomers succumb to the circumstances and the existing order. Batara Tungal or Hyang Batara as the center of the Sundanese worship, still occupies the highest place, while the gods who become worship of immigrants are placed under it. This can be seen in the stratification of the worship system in the Badai area. It is said that Batara Tungal or Sang Rama has 7 sons of Karisa, 5 of which are Batara Guru in Jampang, Batara Iswara, Siwa, Batara Wisanu, Batara Brahma, Batara Kala, Batara Mahadeva, in the end became Guryong Sakti and transformed into Sang Manera or Siung Manera, Batara Patanjala, which is considered the forerunner of Sunda Badai. This acculturation, not only in the cultural sphere, but in marriage. The mention of the names of the gods above is native to the archipelago, not from Hindu India. If true, it's from India. When and who brought to the Indonesian archipelago earlier? Let's think critically and intelligently. Far away, in the Pacific the Maori people are seen typologically. They are yellow-skinned, brown, the body posture is almost the same as the Sundanese. Which explains that the Indonesians, Sundanese, who came to this island are implied in the Encyclopedia Americana Volume 22 page 335. Our nation, apart from bringing a higher order of subada, the habit of mutual cooperation, weaving techniques, also brings a culture of writing, which then to become kohau rongo rongo. Its function is as memo technique, donkey bridge to remember so that no verse is missed. Human characteristics are the basic elements that exist in human life. There are 5 elements included in it. 1. Compassion. Love. 2. Undertake. Family order. 3. Manners. Order of behavior. 4. Budi language and culture. 5. Wiwaha Yuda Narada. It is human nature that always fights everything before doing it. If one other way of characterizing humans did not conform to this, then humans would certainly not have done so. The second principle is the national characteristics. Universally, all human beings do have the same in terms of human characteristics. However, there are certain things that differentiate humans from one another. In the Sundanese Wiwitan teachings, the differences between people are based in the characteristics of the nation, which consists of form, adat, language, script, culture. These 2 principles are not clearly stated in the Sundanese Book of Wiwitan, which is called Siksa Kanda ing Karasian. But fundamentally, humans actually live their lives from what is implied. What is written can always be read and memorized. This does not guarantee that humans will live their lives from what is written. In fact, it is what is implied that can be a guide for humans in life. Initially, Sunda Wiwitan did not teach many taboos to its adherents. There are only 2 main taboos taught in Sundanese religion. That which is disliked by others and which endangers others. Which can be self-defeating. However, because of its development, to respect sacred and sacred places Kabuyutan, which is called Sasaka Pusaka Wana and Sasaka Domas, and to obey a series of rules regarding the tradition of farming and harvesting, Sundanese Wiwitan teachings recognize many prohibitions and taboos. Taboo, in the language of the Kanaks people called Bayut, is mostly practiced by those who live in the core or the holiest area. They are known as the inner Badai. Tradition. In Sundanese Wiwitan teachings, the delivery of prayers is carried out through the singing of rhymes and songs and dance movements. This tradition can be seen from the rice harvest Thanksgiving ceremony and the New Year celebration, which is based in the Sundanese calendar known as the Saranton festival. In various places in West Java, Saranton is always lively and is attended by thousands of people. Saranton celebrations can be found in several villages such as in Kanaks, Lebak, Banten, Siptajalar Kasepahan Banten Kidal, Sisalak, Sukabumi, Kampung Naga, and Segugar, Kuningan. In Segugar, Kuningan itself, an area that still adheres to Sundanese culture, those who celebrate Saranton come from all over the country. Even though there has been inculturation and many Sundanese people have embraced religions outside Sundanese Wiwitan, the understanding and customs that have been taught by this religion are still used as a guide in the life of the Sundanese people. Culturally, the Sundanese have not left this Sundanese religion. The holy place or place of worship that is considered sacred or sacred in the Sundanese Wiwitan religion is Pamanjungan or called Kabuyutan. Pamanjungan is a pundan with terraces which is usually found on a hill, and in Pamanjungan there are usually menhir, aka, senkuk stone, mangkok stone, flat stone and others. There are many Pamanjungan or Kabuyutan in Tatar Sunda such as Balay Pamujan Jenter Bumi, Senkuk site, Mount Padang, Kabuyutan Galinging, Kawali site. In Bogor itself, as the center for Sundanese Negara and Pajajaran, there used to be many Pamanjungan, some of which are Pamanjungan Rankamaya. Its former name is Pamanjungan Sanghyang Padungkukan, which is called Bukit Batagil. At that time, the biggest and most luxurious Pamanjungan was Pamanjungan Kahara Hyang, which was located in Luang Forest, Sangam, or Balay Pamanjungan Mandala Parakan Jati, which is currently used as the Sindang Barang Cultural Village. With the number of Pamanjungan or Kabuyutan in Tatar Sunda, it proves that the religion adopted or the religion of the majority of the Sundanese people in the past is Jati Sundanese religion or Sunda Wiwitan, the original teachings of the archipelago. Let us take a deeper look at understanding the original Sundanese with the teachings of the sun worship Saba. Based on Sastrajan Rahayuningrat, which has the following meanings. Su Astra Ajian Ra Hayu Ning Ra Tu has the following meanings. Su equals true, immortal. Astra equals Ray, Penarang. Ajian equals teaching. Ra equals sun, Sundanese. Hayu equals congratulations, good, beautiful. Ning equals from. Queen equals ruler, Maharaja. Thus, Sastrajan Rahayuningrat, if interpreted loosely, is the true light of the teachings of the sun, the kindness of the queen, or eternal lighter's teachings of the sun, kindness from the Maharaja, or perhaps the meaning is the eternal sun's teachings on the kindness of the ruler, queen, Maharaja of the archipelago. Based on Sastrajan Rahayuningrat, the term Sundanese is formed by three syllables, namely Su Na Da, which means sun. Su equals true, immortal. Na equals fire. Da equals great, big, broad, great. In the unity sentence, Sundanese means true fire great, or the great true fire, or it could also mean the eternal great fire. The meaning is the sun or Sang Surya, Panan Po, Mata Po, Sang Hyang Manan. Sundanese is not at all the name of an ethnic group living in the western part of Java, nor is it the name of the region, because actually, Sundanese is the name of the oldest teaching or religion on earth, its existence long before any type of religion was known in moment right now. Religion, Sundanese, is the embryo of teachings about the way to live as a civilized human being until it reaches the highest peak of humanity, supreme. Besides that, Sundanese religion also initiated the birth of a government system with the first Karachuan kingdom pattern in the world, known for the concept of Sitamong Rasi Ratu Rama Hyang, with the symbol of dog, sign of loyalty. The Sundanese sun teaching religion was originally delivered by the great-grandmother of Queen Bilqis in the Saba kingdom, Sang Sri Rama, the Grand Master of Rasi Prabhu Shindula Hyang, Sang Hyang Tambaldmanang, the son of Sang Hyang Wadu Gunning Ratu Aging Manikmaya, who is better known as Aji Tyarm, Aki Tyarm, or Aji Saka Perwawizaza. I found him and his people worshipping the sun, besides Allah, and Satan has made them look up to their deeds and then hinder them from the path, Allah, so that they do not get guidance. QS. Animal, 1. Seeing the description of the letter animal above, there are two major points, namely the worship of the sun and Satan. There are several temples and myths about the role of the devil in the construction of the temple. Let's say about the Prambanan temple, which was made by demons with the main character of Queen Roro Jonggrang. This is proof that it is true that the Saba civilization is a civilization that exists in Java, starting from the unity of the Sundanese land called Sunda land. Sundanese teachings are better known as Sundayana, yana equals way of life. Flow, teachings, religion, which means Sundanese teaching or the religion of the sun, which was adopted by the Gala people during the kingdom that grew after it, especially in West Java. Sundayana is passed down from generation to generation and spread throughout the world through the great teachers, Guru Besar, Batara Guru. The people of West Java are more familiar with the title Sang Guru Hyang or Sangkuryang, and some others called him Guryang, which means teacher Hyang, as well. The core foundation of Sundanese teachings is compassion, or love. In Arabic it is called Rahman Rahim. The core of this teaching will later develop into the principal teachings of all religions that exist today, because of this compassion that is makes someone worthy of being called a human. This means that in the view of the Sundanese religion, the native Nuswantara nation, if a person does not have compassion, then he is not worthy of being called a human, nor is he worthy of being called an animal, more precisely often referred to as Duruwiksa, Buddha, a savage. In order for future understanding not to be confused and confusing in understanding the terms shine, astra, ra, sun, light, God, and light, it is necessary to explain as follows. Sundayana is divided into three teaching fields in one integral which cannot be separated, unity, namely 1. Tata Salira, oneness of self, contains about the formation of human qualities, namely, melting oneself into oneness, in order to become oneself. Swa, who is civilized, independent and sovereign, or becomes someone who does not depend on anything and anyone other than oneself. During its development, the word Swa became Siwa, which developed in the plains of India. 2. Tata Naga Ra, unity of the country, namely to unite society, nation, state, in a civilized, independent and sovereign life on earth. Development of an independent country, not colonized and not colonized. 3. Earth system, unity of the earth, is a universal policy, universality, to unify the earth and everything in it in the universe of life in order to create a peaceful life in Wana. In accordance with the form and rationale for the teachings of the sun as a source of light, many of the symbolic systems of the area around West Java use the term si, which means light. In Indian language it is called diva, God, light, namely the emission, wave, which born of the sun in the form of colors. There are 5 main colors of light Pankawarna, which form the basis of the philosophy of life of the Gala people who adhere to Sundanese teachings. The white light in the east is called Purwa, the place of Hyang Iswara. The red light in the south is called Daksina, the place of Hyang Brahma. The yellow light in the west is called Pasima, the place of Hyang Mahadeva. The black light in the north is called the north, the place of Hyang Wisanu. All colors of light in the center are called Madhya, the place of Hyang Siwa. The 5 qualities of light are actually the value of time. In the count of my book, none of the 5 wuku 5, is bad and everything is good, but all this time Sang Hyang Siwa, the fusion of all light color, has been misinterpreted to be God of destruction, even though the meaning of the word the fuser is the unifier, or one that fuses or unites. So there is absolutely no God, which is destructive and destructive. Those are all the original teachings of the previous Indonesian archipelago. Not from India. The teaching is original Dharmic, which in the past was brought by the ancestors of the Indonesian archipelago, the Saka or Aryan nation spread to 3/4 of the earth. Then became the basis for the birth of new teachings named Buddha, Hindu, Jaina in India and even Zoroaster. The Sundanese teachings in the Silab Siloka, chakra arrows. The Sundanese teachings in the puppet stories are symbolized by Jamparing Pana Chakra, which is the king of all weapons, belonging to Sang Hyang Wisnu, which can defeat the evil nature and anger. Nothing can escape from Jamparing Pana Chakra's aim. It means Jamparing equals Jamp Kuring. Arrow equals mana equals heart, compassion. Chakra or chakra equals the shining vortex point, life driving wheel, the sun. Symbolically Gendewa, Gondewa, is a form of smiling lips. We can see the symbol of this symbol in the statue of a woman who by the surrounding community gave the name Roro Jongrang. Notice the figure of a female statue standing on a cow. This supports and is proof that the teaching or statue is not from Hinduism or Buddhism from India, isn't it? Cattle in Hindu belief in India are sacred animals. Arrow chakra in West Java is commonly referred to as Jamparing a sea, which means Ajian mana nu well as a sea, gentle heart teaching filled with love. Thus the main purpose of Jamparing arrow chakra or Jamparing a sea is speech that comes out of a compassionate heart to move the shining wheel of life. The existence of Panka Dewa will be Silikakan, symbolized into the puppet story with new characters through the story of Ramayana, teachings of Rama, and the story of Mahabharata in plus or minus 1500 BC. Yudhishthira, Bhima, Rajuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. The 5 lights were later known as Pandawa, which stands for 5 gods, 5 lights, which is a symbol of the qualities of the knights of the country. The term Wayang itself has the meaning shadows. It means the parable of the 5 lights mentioned above. So far, the Wayang story has always been considered a creation of the Indian people. This may be true, but may be wrong. This means that the biggest possibility is that the Indians have been instrumental in recording major events that have occurred on the archipelago through puppet stories in the epic stories of the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Are we exaggerating if we assume that the religion, Sundanese Wiwitan, as a religion that was passed down from the civilization of the ancestors of the Sabaean people? What is clear, Sunda Wiwitan, is the teaching of the sun as a philosophy of life with Saba civilization with the sun as well as the philosophy of its civilization, or if we associate it with the sinking of the Saba or Atlantic civilization, we assume that the Sundanese civilization is the remnant of the sinking Saba civilization. The remaining civilizations that are left in all colonies on Earth include the Mayan Incas and their Pundan terraces for rituals against the Matahari. The remaining civilizations that remain in the Middle East are the Sumerian civilization with its pyramids for rituals against the sun. The rest of the civilization that remains on the ground India is a small kingdom of Saba that develops on Indian soil. So the author's assumption about Indian civilization is that a civilization which is one of the colonies of the Saba civilization, which was destroyed by a terrible battle, was recorded in the story of Mahabharata and Ramayana, which was later after the Saba civilization was sunk, centered in the archipelago. Philosophy of the sun from the civilization of Saba, it developed and grew according to its local culture. So Hinduism, Mahavira before Buddha, then Buddha was born. We can know from the forerunner of Hinduism, Hinduism is a religion whose origin is unknown and the basis of this religion is formed. In the existing literature, the origins of Hinduism are never known, only mentioned as a religion that combines several original philosophies. Unknown and slightly influenced by the Harappan civilization, Mohenjo-daro. The simple logic is, India is known as the Chandra nation, Chandragupta, while the archipelago is known as the nation of the sun, Rahyang. In this case, of course, the sun is superior and superior to the moon. India was illuminated or influenced by the teachings and culture of the archipelago. However, it cannot be denied that the evidence traces of such a great legacy in the archipelago has been largely forgotten, distorted to be destroyed by the Indonesian nation itself, so that at this time it is difficult for us to prove it through scientific truth. Many West Javanese people claim to be Sundanese. They glorify Sundanese as their proud biological and cultural genetics. Even in fact their gentle self-behavior has shown their delay, polite and cultured, but unique and strange to them. They do not admit that all of this is the result of upbringing the Sundanese religion which they have inherited from their ancestors from generation to generation, as if they have become religious genetics in Gala humans. The people of West Java are aware that the gentle behavior, full of courtesy and civility, occurs due to the existence of teachings, Sundanese religion, flowing in their blood and moving without realizing it reflex. To say this incident, the ancestors called it Nyumpit Bunny in Nu Kang. Hidden in a bright place, the meaning is, their mentality, thoughts, behavior, art, culture, philosophy are actually the result of Sundanese upbringing. The essence of the Sundanese archetype is, to do well and rightly based on a gentle sense of compassion. This basic pattern is applied through the Tri-Dharma, three kindness, namely as a guide to measure the value of one's greatness, human degree based on Dharma, goodness. Dharma Bhakta is someone who has practiced goodness towards himself, his family and in the small environment where he lives. The human being has the title, main human. The holy Dharma is someone who has practiced goodness towards the nation and state. The human being has the title, man excellence paripurna, being an idol. Great Dharma is someone who has practiced goodness towards all life fairies, both visible and invisible, smelled, touched and untouched, all goodness that is not limited by space and time. His human being has the title, Adi Luhung man, Batara teacher. That's the original Dharmic teachings of the original Indonesian archipelago. The values contained in this Tri-Dharma will later become the subject of the teaching of Buddhi Dharma, Buddha, which prioritizes goodness as evidence and devotion to compassion for all life to achieve happiness, or liberation from suffering. This teaching was later continued and developed by one of the leaders of the Supreme Master of the Rasi Shakyamuni, Siddhartha Gautama, Sang Buddha, a crown prince of the Kapilavastu kingdom in Nepal, India. The formation of the Sundanese Tri-Dharma is carried out through different stages according to age levels, namely 1. Dharma Rasa is to educate oneself to be able to understand, taste, tenderness in all things, so as to be able to present a state of feeling jung rumasa, aware of feelings and understand feelings. Thus in a person will appear respect, and concern for others and the ability to feel felt by others, other parties. This is the basic pattern of character formation. Compassion, and the human being later called God saw. 2. Dharma raga, as educating oneself in real devotion, proof, or practicing the nature of feeling in everyday life, not theory, so that one's existence presence can be accepted happily, by all parties in a state of Naraga Jung Nawaruga, incarnate and present. This is the basic pattern of forming human behavior, which is based on the awareness of feelings and thoughts. A person who has reached this stage is called God Ta. 3. Dharma Raja, is to educate oneself to present self as a human, compassion, which is complete in all life behavior, giving without giving, or giving without receiving, no strings attached. This level is the attainment of the most respectable degree of human being who deserves to be a role model for all parties and deserves to be called, made, a leader. The author concludes that the temple, which is currently named Borobudur, is the original temple of the archipelago culture and does not originate from civilization or teachings in India. We can clearly see this from the statue of a figure who is doing meditation. Pay attention to every part of the back of the head always depicted by the sun. The position of the statue is a ritual position to reach the levels mentioned above. Also pay attention to the two old figures hovering above the hermit. Why this figure can float. In the discussion below about Borobudur we will find later. Who is this figure who can float? What connection with Saba can shorten the distance by flying hovering? Also about the miracle that was given to Solomon could control the wind. Sundanese teachings are based in the virtuous nature of the sun, which illuminates and distributes light to all creatures around the earth without favoritism and without discrimination. The sun has become the main source from which to start a joyful life, and without the sun everything is just darkness. That is why the followers of Sundanese teachings are oriented towards the sun, Sang Hyang Tunggal, as a symbol of the oneness and oneness in the sky, and the Sundanese religious Qibla was not created by humans. Sundayana spreads throughout the world, especially in Asia, Europe, America and Africa, while in Australia it is not very visible. By the Western community through their respective language codes, the teachings of the sun are enshrined in the title Sunday, derived from the word Sundayana, and the Indonesian people are more familiar with Sunday as Sunday. In the American region, the culture of the Indians, Maya and Aztecs is inseparable from worship of the sun, as well as in the African and Asian regions. In short, almost all nations in the world follow the teachings of the indigenous ancestors of the archipelago, which are based on Buddhist codes of conduct with compassion, love teachings oriented towards the sun's policy. The traces of the existence of Sundanese religious teachings which then developed to this day are recorded in the culture of the people of Rome, Roman Empire, which set the date of December 25 as Sunday, namely the day of worship to the sun, Sundanese, and now the Indonesian people are more familiar with it as the day, Christmas. By the West, Europe and America, the term Sundayana, Doroba, became Sunday, while in the archipelago it was known as Surya, Aryan nation, which came from three syllables, namely Su Ra Yana. The Nusantara people commemorated it in the Shura ceremony, Suro, which basically aims to express a sense of acceptance and an expression of gratitude for the fertility of the state which has given life in all life-giving forms, whether in the form of food, air, water, fire, warmth, soil, and so on. The meaning of Surayana is essentially the same as Sundayana because it contains the same purpose and meaning. Su equals true. Ra equals rays, supreme light, sun. Yana equals way of life, teachings, religion. So the meaning of Surya is the same as the true religion of the sun, and later the Indonesian people recognized and perpetuated it with the title Sang Surya to replace the term sun. The change in the term Sundanese 5,000 years before the Christian calendar in Asia in the history of ancient Egyptian civilization describes the existence of the teachings of the sun from the Gala nation. They call it Ra, which means the rays, Astra, sun, Sunda. Ra is described in the form of I, and positioned as the supreme ruler of all the other gods of the ancient Egyptians. it can be concluded that the ancient Egyptians embraced and recognized the Sundayana, sun religion, brought and taught by the Gala ancestors, namely Saba. On the other hand, the Indonesian people currently recognize the form and term, I, which is similar to the description of Amun-Ra, of the ancient Egyptians. Amun reminds us of the term, Panan, which means, I, which is contained in the word, Sangiren Valley, which is another name for the sun in ancient West Java society. Apart from Asia, Egypt, the Indians in America also highly worshipped the sun, as a symbol of their ancestors, and they called themselves a red skin nation. Even the Incas, Aztecs and Maya in Latin America built shrines specifically for the sun, until they use a time calculation pattern based on the circulation of the sun, similar to that in the archipelago. The Saka calendar pattern equals main pillar equals core, center of circulation equals the sun. The Incas in Peru, Latin America, built a shrine to the sun on a hilltop called Machu Picchu. In this case, it is clear that in general the concept of exalting with a solid foundation, in relation to greatness, high, sublime, peak, maha, is the main basis of thinking of Sundanese religion. Philosophically, the pattern of the form of the building, towards the tapered peak Gunungan, is a symbol of the Hyangs who are exalted or exalted. This too is the precepts of the human journey from there, to Tiada, sky, from incarnate to become the main human until later to the pinnacle of human quality supreme. Likewise, what was done by the Maya in Mexico in ancient times, they specifically built a shrine temple to the sun, Sangiren Tunggal. In ancient times, almost all nations on the continent of America, native people, worshipped the sun, and amazingly almost all nations showed high cultural results. The advancement of civilization in the field of architecture, dress code, communication systems, both oral, written, language styles and images, ceremonial manners. Progress in agriculture and animal husbandry is of course the most important, because it shows the prosperity of the community, meaning that they can live peacefully in togetherness so that one day they are able to give birth to beauty and majesty in life culture. Around the 15th century, the great culture of the Latin American nation experienced a collapse after the arrival of Western missionaries who carried the gold, glory and gospel missions. The main objective is of course gold, wealth, and glory, victory, while the gospel, religion, is only used as a political cover so that it seems as if they aim to civilize a nation. The propaganda they preach about the barbaric behavior of the sun religion and which will be believed by the world community is that the sun-worshipping alienated tribe is man-eating. This is similar to what happened in North Sumatra and other regions in Indonesia. Behind the propaganda, the real intention of the arrival of the propagators of religion is the robbery of natural resources and expansion of colonies, imperialism, because it is impossible for a religious nation to be diversified, back with teachings that are not based on policy values and local wisdom. In the view of the adherents of the Sundanese religion, the Gala nation, what is meant by the civilization of a nation, state, is not measured based on material values which are artificial and fabricated by humans such as magnificent buildings, gold and gemstones and so on, but rather the creation of harmony in life with nature, eternity. This principle is of course very contradictory to other countries whose geographic quality is not as good as those of tropical nations such as in the archipelago and other tropical countries. Galu's ancestors taught about the principles of the glory and wealth of a country as follows. Mount Kudu Paja, Luang Kudu Heo, Walungan Kudu Harang, Tenu Kudu Fertile, then Baga Rahayu Sakabe Rahayatna. Mountains must be strong, forests must be green, rivers must be clear, land must be fertile, so peace must be in peace for all its people. Mount Tu Munang broken, Luang Tu Munang destroyed, mountains must not be destroyed, forests must not be destroyed. Sun worship shrines, places of worship, were almost entirely built on a mountain pattern with a rectangular foundation that peaked towards a single point. It may be that this is closely related to one of the principles of Sundanese teachings in achieving the highest quality of the nation, state, such as the sun shining brightly, or often referred to as Opat Ka Lima Panser, namely, the four core elements of nature: fire, air, water, earth, which radiate out into mountains, as the source of life for beings. Judging from the symbolic forms and orientation of worship, it can be ascertained that the pyramids in the Egyptian region were actually a temple of the sun, Sundapura. Although some historians say that the pyramids are the tombs of kings, it should be understood that ancient Egyptian kings are believed to be descendants of the sun, messenger of the sun, or the son of the sun. Thus they are equivalent to the son of Sunda, messenger of Sanghyang Tunggal. For a while the term son of Sunda for the kings of ancient Egypt and others certainly still sounds odd and strange because so far the term Sundanese is always considered as a tribe, race or small area in the western part of Java. The term Sundanese seems to have never been understood by the Indonesian people, even by the people of West Java themselves. It is not known the exact time Sang Narayana Gala Hyang Ageng Galangang developed and strengthened Sundanese teachings in Japan. Thus Ra, or the sun, was so thick with the life of the Japanese people, they built a shrine for the sun called the Nara Temple, Nara, a peace sun, and Japanese people are known as worshippers of the goddess Amate Ra Su Omikami, who is described as a shining woman, Astra, Aster, Astro, Astral, Astra. Not only that, the supreme ruler of the Japanese emperor was also believed to be the incarnation of the sun, or the son of the sun, Tenno. In other words, the Japanese emperors could also be called the son of Sunda, sun, messenger, Titasan Matahari, and until now they have used the sun as a symbol of nationality and state that is respected by the world community. Later, Japan was known as the country of the rising sun. This was because Japan followed in the footsteps of the ancestral teachings of the archipelago, until in 1945 when Japanese troops entered Indonesia with the mission of Asian Light. They called Indonesia Old Brother for their political guise. Basically, the teachings of the ancestors of the Gala nation can be accepted throughout the nation state because it contains three universal, logical, and realistic principles of teaching, without pressure and coercion, namely, the formation of the values of the human person, a person, as the main basis for the development of the quality of the civilization of a nation, society, which is based on the values of compassion, love. Developing the quality of a nation towards a just, prosperous, and civilized state through all the natural resources, natural, environmental, in each region which are managed wisely in accordance with the needs of daily life. Maintenance of natural quality in harmony, which will later become the main wealth or main resource for the future life of a nation, and which will last from generation to generation, sustainable. Thus the teachings of Sundanese, Sundayana, Sarayana, Sun religion, spread throughout the earth, brought by the Guru Hyang to give color to the civilization of world society, which is absorbed and expressed, translated, through various forms of signs based on the intelligence pattern of each nation. Sundanese teachings adjust to the geographical location and character of the people in harmony, harmoniously, so that is why the form of sacred buildings, places of worship, does not show similarities in every country, depending on its natural potential. However, the basic building pattern and its philosophy contains the same meaning, referring to the form of the gunungan. In Indonesia itself, the symbol of Ra, sun, Sundanese, as the ruler of the highest in ancient times was actually applied to various aspects of life in the nation and state. This is expressed in the form, and naming related to the term Ra, sun, as something that is both great and good, such as the concept of territory is called Dragon Ra, Nega Ra. The coat of arms of the country is called Bend Ra. The Maharaja Nusantara has the title Ra Hyang. The royal family has the title Ra Kian and Ra Ha Dian Raden. The concept of order is called Ra Si, Ra Tu, Ra Ma. The inhabitants are called Ra Hayat, people. The name of the region is called Dirganta Ra, Swarganta Ra, Dwipanta Ra, Nusanta Ra, Indonesia. The last Kemaharaja Keraton Nusantara, Majapahit, stands for Maharaja Purahita, the holy place of the Maharaja that is Makmur prosperous, known as the center of the government of Naga Ra, which is located in Kediri, East Java around the 13th century. The form of the sun symbol, whereas in other state banners they use the colors red and white, Purwa Daksina, which are similar to the Pataka flag of Indonesia today. Not apart from the existence of Sundanese Matahari teachings in the past which are still attached to various nations as a symbol of state or other things that have turned into legends and myths, it seems that the strongest evidence of the origin, beginning, of the existence of the teachings of the sun or religion, Sundanese, is still lasting in the archipelago which has now changed its name to Indonesia. Source: Indonesian Space Research. History of Sundanese. Sundanese is the culture of people living in the western region of the island of Java. As a tribe, the Sundanese people were the origin of civilization in the archipelago, starting with the establishment of the oldest kingdoms in Indonesia, namely the Salakanegara and Tarumanegara kingdoms Tagala, Pakuan Pajajaran, and Sumedang Larang. The Sundanese word means good, white, clean, bright, anything that contains elements of goodness. The Sundanese are believed to have the ethos character of the Sundanese as a path to the virtue of life. The Sundanese characters referred to are Kajar, healthy, Bajar, good, correct, singer, skilled, and clever, intelligent, which have existed since the era of Salaka Negara in 150 to Sumedang Larang century. 17, has brought prosperity and well-being for more than 1,000 years. Their original belief system formed the foundation of what is now called the native Sundanese religion. While it is impossible to know for sure what this belief was like, the best evidence is found in ancient epic poems, Wawakan, and among isolated Bedouin tribes. The Bedouin call their religion Sundanese Wiwitan, the earliest Sundanese. Not only are the Bedouin almost completely free from Islamic elements, but the Sundanese also show very few original Dharmic characteristics. Some of the words in Sanskrit related to myths are still around. The oldest known Sundanese literary work is Karatha Parayangan. This work was written around the year 1000 and glorifies the Javanese king Sanjaya as a great warrior. Sanjaya is a follower of Shivaism, so we know that there are other teachings or understandings that underlie the pre-Hindu Sundanese civilization which was born in India, namely before the year 700. It is surprising that about this time, the second Indian religion, Buddhism, made an appearance in such a short time. If we look at the number of years written in all the history books that are circulating today, namely that many temples were suddenly built during the short period of the arrival of teachings from India, how is this possible? Simple question to which there is no answer. Who invalidates the labeling so far it is written that the original teachings of the archipelago as well as pre-Islamic kingdoms are called Hindu or Buddhist based? The question: when and who was the Hindu-Buddhist missionary to the Indonesian archipelago who brought the teaching and then spread it here? There is no answer. Let's think critically and intelligently. With unlimited variations on the theme of the spiritual body coexisting with the natural body, the Indonesians have incorporated Hindu philosophy into their own conditions. J.C. van Leer theorizes that Hinduism helps solidify Sundanese cultural forms. That opinion is not true. In particular, magical beliefs and spirits have absolute value in Sundanese life. One of the experts on Sundanese customs, Prawirsuganda, stated that the number of taboos related to all important aspects of the life cycle of Sundanese celebrations is the same as that of the Bedouin. This is the original teaching of the archipelago, not from India. The influence of the Javanese tribe on the life of the Sundanese people. According to historian Bernard Vleka, West Java was an underdeveloped area on the island of Java until the 11th century. Major kingdoms arose in Central and East Java, but little changed among the Sundanese. Although limited, influence among the Sundanese was not as strong as among the Javanese. However, as meaningless as West Java, the Sundanese had a king during the Erlangga era in East Java, about the year 1020. But the Sundanese kings were increasingly under the control of the great Javanese kingdoms. Kertanegara 1268-92 was king of Java at the end of what is considered the Hindu period in Indonesia. That is the assumption of foreign philologists who do not really understand who the ancestors of the Indonesian nation are. After Kertanegara rule, the Majapahit kings ruled until 1478, but they did not matter anymore after 1389. However, this Javanese influence continued and deepened the influence over the Sundanese. Religious orientation of the 20th century. Religion among the Sundanese is like their other cultural forms, which in general reflect the religion of the Javanese. The important difference is the stronger attachment to Islam than can be found among the Javanese. Although this attachment is not as great as the Madurs or Bugis tribes, it is quite important to get special attention when we look at the history of the Sundanese people. One very important aspect of Sundanese religions is the domination of pre-Islamic beliefs. This belief is the main focus of myths and rituals in Sundanese life cycle ceremonies. Telaah parenti ceremonies, traditions and customary law, are always oriented primarily around the worship of Dewi Sri Nyi Pahachi Sangyang Sri. Another important spiritual power is Nyi Roro Kidul, but not as big as Dewi Sri. She is the queen of the South Sea and the protector of all fishermen. Along the southern coast of Java, people are afraid and always fulfill the demands of this goddess until now. Another example is Siliwangi. Siliwangi is the spirit power which is the strength in the life of the Sundanese people. It represents another territorial power in the cosmological structure of the Sundanese. Magical incantations. In the worship of gods, the magical incantation system also plays a major role with regard to spirit powers. One such system is the Naruat Batara Kala, which was designed to elicit favor from the god Batara Kala in thousands of personal situations. Understanding the Sundanese of our time is a major challenge for historians, anthropologists, and religious scholars. Even prominent Sundanese scholars were reluctant to try to describe the character and contribution of the Sundanese people. It seems that through various ways the Sundanese people have been absorbed into Indonesian culture for the past 50 years. Cultural values. Sundanese culture has certain characteristics that distinguish it from other cultures. In general, the people of West Java or Tatar Sunda are known as gentle, religious, and very spiritual people. This tendency is seen in the proverbs of Sila Asi, Sila Asa and Sila Asu, loving each other, prioritizing compassion, perfecting or improving oneself through education and sharing knowledge, and protecting each other, maintaining mutual safety. Besides that, Sundanese also has a number of other values such as politeness, humility towards others, respect for the elders, and love for the lesser ones. In Sundanese culture, the magical balance is maintained by performing traditional ceremonies, while the social balance of the Sundanese people performs mutual cooperation to maintain it. Simple question to which there is no answer. Who invalidates the labeling? So far it is written that the original teachings of the archipelago as well as pre-Islamic kingdoms are called Hindu or Buddhist based. The question: when and who was the Hindu-Buddhist missionary to the Indonesian archipelago who brought the teaching and then spread it here? There is no answer. Let's think critically and intelligently. Borobudur book is not a temple. Part 3 continues to Section 4. Santo Saba works. Created as a discourse to scientists based on subjective academic studies and studies, this needs to be re-examined by experts in their fields. In an effort to restore the true history of Indonesia. INDONÉSIARYÄ. By Santo Saba. Exploration and research. Complete info. WhatsApp to +62813 2132 9787.